Hello, welcome to Naresh Technologies. This is Sudhakar Sharma. In this session, we are going to continue our previous video session concepts, entity framework, database first approach. To continue with this video, you need to watch our previous session video, how to create the POCO classes for the database existing. In the previous video session, we discussed about how to use the database first approach, where all the domain specific classes are created according to the database and tables available. Now we are going to use those POCO classes to interact with the database. We are going to create a simple UI in MVC that will access the data from the tables and use the data. Here we are using the database first approach. Through database first approach, we added an entity data model. This is our entity data model, Northwind DB model, and this entity data model is having the model classes TBL category and TBL product. Category is mapping to the table categories and product is mapping to the table products. Now we have a context class here, that is Northwind DB entities. This context class Northwind DB entities is having two DB sets, TBL categories and products, to interact with the categories table and products table. Now let us see how to interact with the data. How to get these classes, that we already discussed in our previous approach, database first. Now we are using these classes to communicate with the database. So let us see how we can interact with the database and tables. After adding the ADO.NET entity data model for the products and categories tables, we are adding a new controller. Let us add a new controller and name the controller as products controller. It is an MVC 5 empty controller. We are naming that controller as first we will use categories. Categories controller will have the actions which are responsible for accessing the category details. So we are creating a categories controller, and in the categories controller we need to access the model classes. To access the model classes, I am importing the namespace using entity framework DB first models, because this DB first models namespace is providing all the classes to interact with the database. And in the categories controller, we are creating Northwind DB entities. We are using Northwind DB entities reference. DB is equal to new Northwind DB entities. Through this DB reference, you can access both the categories table as well as products. The categories controller is having an index action. I want this index action to return the list of all the categories. So how we can return the list of all categories? Categories are accessible by using the reference of DB. So in the view, we are accessing DB. Categories table can be accessed by using a DB set called TBL categories, and I want to return the list of all the categories. So we are making it as a list. In the categories controller, there is a index action. This index action is accessing the list of all the categories and returning to the view. Now what we want to do here in the view is loop through all the categories returned by the index action and print the list of all the categories. Let us see. So we will add a view for the index action. Right click on index action and select the option add view. It's prompting to define the view name. Let the view name be index, and the template we will select as empty, and with the model class it must use the model class TBL category, because we are accessing the data from categories table and we are using a DB set which is of type TBL category. So, we defined the name as index and template empty and model class as TBL category. Now, let us add this view. In the view, you can observe the view is now strongly binded with the table TBL categories. What we have to do in the view is loop through all the categories and print the list of all categories, so that user can view the list of all the categories available in the categories table. However, here one important point is you are adding a strongly typed view, and the strongly typed view you can observe it is defined for the TBL category, but our index action in the controller is sending a list of all categories. Then we need to convert this into a list type, means an I enumerable. We are using an I enumerable to designate this as a list type. So, now model is having the collection of all the categories. We need to loop through all the categories present in the model and print them here. So, let us put the heading as categories index, and in the categories index we need to print the list of all categories. Then we will use an ordered list. To loop through all the items inside the model, we use a for each var item in collection. Collection is model. So, we are accessing every item through this model and we want to print that as a list item, and we will access item and we want only the category name to be printed. Then we will access the category name field. That means the categories list is passed into the index view. We are collecting the list through a model. We are looping through every item inside the model and accessing the category name and displaying as a list item. Initially, let us run this and see how it looks like. When I access the categories controller index action, I will get the list of all the categories available inside the categories table. So, here one important point is we are not writing the classes, we just generated the classes by using entity framework DB first approach. Generally, if you have the database and tables ready, then you can generate the POCO classes. By using those POCO classes, you can communicate with the database. So, here exactly we are doing the same. We are using an entity model that generated all the classes. By using those classes, we are interacting with the database. So, in the categories controller index action, it has to return the list of all categories. Let us access the categories index. So, in the URL, we are entering the controller name categories and the action name index. And if all the connections are defined properly and configured properly, then it has to get the list of all the categories and display, right. Now, you can see the list of all the categories available and displayed here. So, we are accessing the list of all the categories and displaying in the categories index. But we want these categories, category names as hyperlink, so that whenever user clicks on a specific category, I need to get the list of all the products belong to that category. Then how to designate this list item as a hyperlink. So, in MVC, to designate anything like an hyperlink, we have an helper method. Here the list item, instead of displaying some literal text, we will use an HTML action link. Action link will render an HTML anchor tag. In the action link, we have to define the link text. I want to get the category name as link text and display. Then I will access the category name as item.category name. So, you are creating an hyperlink where the link text will be item.category name. That means whatever the category name is there, it will get the category name and generate as an hyperlink. What we want this hyperlink to do is, whenever user clicks on any specific category, we want the user to redirect and view the list of all the products belong to that particular category. So that means now this action link will have the text category name, and it should redirect to an action called index in a controller called products. That means when user clicks on the link, that will be redirected automatically to an index action in products. Still this index products is not yet ready to interact, so we need to design that index products. So initially we just made our category names as hyperlinks, so that whenever user click on that hyperlink, he will be automatically redirected to the index action in the products controller. But very important here is, whenever user is redirected to index products, we want to display the details of the products that belong to that specific category. That means if user clicks on electronics, I want only electronic products to display, and user clicks on shoes, I want only shoes product to display. In that situation, when you are redirecting from the category to the products, we need to pass this category ID into the products, so that you can filter the products based on the category ID. As already we discussed in our previous session, while creating the database table, we defined the category ID as a foreign key in the products table. So whenever user clicks on any category, we will redirect to the index of products, and we will pass the current category ID into that index, so that the products index can filter the list of all the categories products belong to that particular category. So here we need to pass category ID as a parameter, then we have to pass as new anonymous object, and the new anonymous object, the parameter name is ID, and it should pass the category ID into it. We are passing the category ID. And whenever you are creating the links in MVC, it's always important that it will not pass any default parameters, then you have to define it to null. So now when we run this categories index action, you can observe the categories index action. This time it is having the list of all the categories displayed as hyperlinks, so that user can click on any category and get the list of all the products belong to that particular category. So you can see in the output now, we are having the categories table, categories index. In the categories index, we have two categories, electronics and shoes. When I click on the electronics, I need to get the list of all the electronic products, and see what happens when I click on this. Initially it shows 404 status code. That's reasonable, because there is no products controller we created. We will create that now, and see it is expecting a products controller with an index action, and it is passing an ID into that. When I click on and see the ID is 1, that means the category ID 1, and when I click on the second category shoes, then you can see it is passing the category ID 2. So based on that, we need to filter the details in the products and display the details of the products. So what we have to do, when user clicks on the category, I have to return the list of all the products belong to that particular category. So let's do that now. We will go to the controllers. In the controllers, already the categories controller is ready with categories list. We will add one more controller, and let's put the controller as empty MVC controller with the name products. And in this products controller, you can see we have an action index. Let's define the models here using entity db first dot models, so that I can access the model classes. We need to create a reference for the context. That means Northwind db entities, db is equal to new Northwind db entities. So this reference will access the list of all the categories and products. Here we want the products, and we have a controller called products. This controller products is having an index which will return the list of all products. But exactly we don't want to return the list of all products. We want to return the list of the products that belong to the category that user clicked in the previous screen. That means here the index action is expecting an parameter ID. So we are passing the parameter ID, and what the ID must be, it must be the category ID. So in the previous page, whatever the category user selected, that category will be passed into that index action. Now we need to check whether that particular category related products are there or not in this products collection. So how do we do that? We will not use any database queries here. We will use a simple link query for that. So db dot, and we have the list of all the products that can be accessed through TBL products. In TBL products, we need to search for the products that are matching with the category ID. Then we have to use the link method any based on which field you are using, you can access by using any, or you can also use the link statement where. So just you have to check whether the products belong to the specific category or not, and filter the list and display. So we can use any, or we can use where. So here we want to return the list of all the products, then better option is to go with the where. So db TBL products where the category ID is matching with the category ID. How do we access the category ID? X implies x dot category ID is equal to whatever the ID you passed. That means it will verify whether the category ID you passed is matching with the category ID field inside the products table. If any product belong to that particular category, then it will get that particular product and return it to the list. That means now what index action is doing, it is expecting the category name whenever invoked, and when the category name is passed, it will verify whether that particular category related products are there in the collection or not. If they are there, and it will return the list of all the products. Now if when it is returning the list of all the products, we have to store in a list type. I will give the name as products, list of, it will be TBL product type, and I will give the name as products and store that collection. So whatever the products returned by the index action, now those products are available in this products reference. Now we want our view to render that products details, then we have to pass that products into the view. That means whenever the index action is called, the category ID is passed into the index action. It will verify whether any product is there by that particular category ID or not. If there are products belong to that particular category, then get the products and store in a products reference. This product reference is passed into the view, so that now we can use all the products in the view and display them. So let's add a view for index action. I will add a view. View name we will define as index, and template it will be again empty. Model class, this time it belongs to TBL product. Okay, let's add this view. Now in this view again you are sending a list of all the products. That means you have to convert this into an I enumerable. We are converting this into an I enumerable, and now the list of all the products are accessible with the help of model. Let's put this as a products list. Okay. Now how do we loop and print through all the products? We will use a simple for each var item in collection. The collection is model. This time we want to print only the product name. What are all the products belong to that particular category? Then as a list item we will access item dot name, because we want to print only the product name. But and again important point is this product name must be like an hyperlink, so that I click on that particular product and I can get the detail of that particular product. First, up to this point, let us see whether it is able to get the list of all the products belong to that particular category or not. Then we can extend this code. So, I will start with the categories index action. In the categories index action, it will display the list of all the categories available, and it will show the category names as links, so that user can click on any category link and he can get the list of the products belong to that particular category. So, in the categories index page, we have two categories, one electronics and shoes. Let us click on electronics and see. Now you can observe it have to get the list of all the electronic products and show. It has to get all the electronic products and show. Now similarly, now I will go back and click on shoes. It has to get the shoe products and display. So now the navigation is properly working. We are able to see the list of all the electronics and products separately. But I want these products as links, so that I can see the detail of every product now. So how to achieve that? So what we will do is in the products controller, we want to display the detail of every product again. Then what we can do is, whenever user views the list of all the products, here he is viewing the list of all the products. We want this as hyperlinks again. Then we will use an HTML action link. Link text will be the product name, then I can access that by using item dot name. And when user clicks on that particular product name, he must be redirected to an action called details. The details action is expecting the product ID. So that means we need to pass the product ID, so that it will display the details of that particular product. So we will pass as new anonymous object, and it is expecting an ID. ID is the current product ID. You can get that by using item dot product ID. We are passing the product ID into the details. So what this index action is expecting is, whenever user clicks on that particular product, it will be showing the details of that particular product. And how do we get the details of that product? Let us see. So that means whenever user clicks on the product name, it is redirecting to an details action, and it is passing the product ID. So in the products controller, we need another action. We are creating an action result by name details. Into the details action, we are passing the ID. This time this is a product ID. We need to verify whether this particular product ID is available or not. So if it is available, then get the details of that particular product and display individually every product information. So what it should return? It should return a view, and in the view it should return the detail of that specific product that is matching with the ID. So DB, what is the table name? TBL products. In that we have to search for a single record where the product, so that means the product ID is matching with the ID we passed. That means X dot product ID is equal to the ID you matched. That means it will search for that particular ID product, and it will return that product to the view. So let us add a view for the details action. When I add a view for the details action, view name is details and the template is empty. The model class will be again the TBL product. So let us add this. This time it is not returning the list, it is returning only one single product information. Then we will put the header as product details, and we want to display the details of all the products in a tabular form. Let us create a table. In the table we will add the table row. First cell, it will display the product ID. And how do we access the product ID and display? we have to use model and the product ID, model dot product ID. Similarly, we need to display the product name and price. I will copy this code and change this into the product name. This time the model is expecting name, and one more row with the details of product price, and let's add the product price. Okay. Now let's run this and see. That means we are displaying the details of all the products individually. So first we will start with the categories index. So when we get the list of all the categories, user can click on any specific category so that it will return the list of all the products belong to that particular category. User can view the products and select any product so that he can view the details of that particular product. That's what the UI we have designed here. So the first categories index will come, that shows the list of all the available categories in the categories table. And user clicks on any specific category like electronics or shoes. When he clicks on electronics, it will show the list of all the electronic products as hyperlink. And when user wants to see the detail of any specific product, he will click on any product like TV, and he will get the detail of that particular product. Now this is perfectly working, but we need a proper navigation mechanism for the website, because after watching the details he can go back to the products list. From there he can go back to the details, right? Let's see how we can do that. That means from details action, user must be redirected to index. So in the details view, after displaying the table, here we will add a line break and an action link, HTML action link. The link text will be like back to products list, and products list is available in an action called index, but index is expecting the category ID. Then we have to pass the new anonymous object ID. ID is the category ID that you can access by using model dot category ID. That means we are passing the category ID into that so that it will get back to the list of all the products. Now user can be navigating back from the details to the products index. So this is the products index where it is displaying the list of all the products. Now from here user must be able to go back to the categories. Then here we will add one more action link. This time this action link will have the link text as back to categories, so that it will be redirected to an action called index in a controller called categories. So let's start with the index action and see. Now we have a proper navigation mechanism between these views, so that user can be navigated from one view to another view easily. So first it will get the list of all the categories available through the index action. From the list of all the categories, user will select any particular category to view, and he clicks on any category like shoes, it will get the list of all the shoes. Now from here user can go back to the categories by clicking on this link, it will get back to the categories. User can select any particular category, and from there user will click on any particular product, it will get the detail of that particular product, and from there user can switch back to the product list. Product list will get the list of all the products and back to the categories. This is one simple example of how do we consume that database POCO classes and interact with the database. So in this example we created a simple UI to interact with the tables that we created through code first approach. Through code first approach we created the tables. Through database first approach we imported the classes, and now we are using those classes to communicate with the database and tables. If we can understand these two approaches, now we can see the third type of approach, how the model first approach works. That we will see in our next video session. Thank you.